Good evening, friends, and welcome to this press briefing on the second day of the India-Africa Forum Summit. I regret the delay in starting this press conference because I was still with External Affairs Minister who was having her bilaterals. As you know, today the foreign ministers of the African countries met with the Indian Foreign Minister, and they, throughout the day, they had deliberations. They were working on the outcomes for the India-Africa Forum Summit. And after this, as you know, the baton will be passed to the heads who will meet here on the 29th of September. Today, there was also a business exhibition, which is in the Velodrome, which was inaugurated by Affairs General V.K. Singh. And this is a very interesting exhibition which focuses on themes of infrastructure, agriculture, technology and innovation, power and renewable energy, and healthcare. So those of you who have had the opportunity of seeing this exhibition would recognize how we have put together, Indian companies which have certain expertise in these designated areas, and how that expertise could meet the requirements of African countries. Those of you who have not seen the exhibition, I would certainly encourage you to please go and have a look. Some very innovative displays are there. Apollo Hospitals is there, as I said, on the healthcare side, Jubilant on the biotechnology side. And you will see, a lot of Indian companies who have come up with innovative products, which, as we know, we always say that Africa needs appropriate technology. And that is just the right kind of mix of innovation and expertise that can be very useful in taking this partnership forward. Today, External Affairs Minister co-chaired the Foreign Ministers meeting with the Foreign Minister of Zimbabwe. And after that, she had a series of bilateral meetings. So I have with me two very senior Joint Secretaries. On my left, who's Joint Secretary DPA ago in MEA to handle all our external developmental partnerships. So Mr. Sanjeev Kohli will brief you on the bilateral meetings that External Affairs Minister had today. And then if you have any questions pertaining to the lines of credit, etc., then we have Mr. Manpreet Vora to answer those for you. So with that, the floor is yours, Sanjeev.
Thank you. In today's round of bilateral meetings, the External Affairs Minister met with her counterparts. She met with her counterparts from South Africa, Zimbabwe, Malawi, Cameroon, Cape Verde, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Ghana. She also met with her counterparts from South Sudan and Tunisia. Her first meeting was with the Foreign Minister of South Africa. The South African Foreign Minister, she spoke very highly about the historic partnership between the two countries. In fact, she said that India and South Africa are the only two countries which share Mahatma with them. She said that South Africa would have still been struggling with apartheid if they had not learnt the concept of Satyagraha from Mahatma Gandhi. She also said that this summit comes at a time when the world affairs are generally in a state of shambles. She referred to the 70th anniversary of the United Nations and also felt that while we have celebrated the 70th anniversary, the Security Council has been so ineffective in meeting or pursuing the primary objectives of the United Nations, that's pursuit of peace, development, and security. She said that both India and South Africa need to work together closely, not only on bilateral issues or regional affairs, but also on important global matters. She also spoke about, how the government of India has been actively pursuing programs relating to empowerment of women, education of girl child, and she said that while most countries have these, as part of the constitution, as part of the policy documents, but she has been so glad to note that the Government of India is actively pursuing it in its policy implementation programs. She also referred to how Made in India program could be so mutually beneficial to India as well as to its partners in Africa. She referred to the availability of raw material in countries in Africa and how Indian technology, coupled with the raw material availability, can do wonders for not only for Make in India but also Make in Africa. So she saw compatibility in both the programs. She also referred to both India and countries in Africa combining together to address the problem of food security. She also referred to the suitability of Indian technology for the defense industry in Africa. EM, of course, reciprocated the very strong sentiments that her counterpart from South Africa had expressed, and both countries have agreed to further deepen and widen their engagement in various spheres of bilateral engagement. The South African Foreign Minister also requested for more scholarships and for Indian technical assistance, which we have agreed. We've responded positively and we've agreed to do as much as we can. Her next meeting was with her counterpart from Zimbabwe. Again, a common thread which came out of her meetings with different African leaders was how India has committed resources to support developmental programs in various countries in Africa. They all saw, a friendship with India as an all-season friendship. It's not a friendship which, has varied from good times to bad times or has been, contingent on a particular regime in a country in Africa. So in all our meetings, this common thread came out very clearly. The Zimbabwean Foreign Minister referred to agriculture sector, energy sector, education sector as areas of priority where they wanted India to strengthen its assistance, and we've responded positively to that. In a meeting with the Foreign Minister of Malawi, the Malawian Foreign Minister again referred to the very strong developmental partnership that we have, including training programs, lines of credit. He also requested for more scholarships and for further Indian assistance in a variety of areas. They requested for technical assistance from India for the leather sector, small-scale mining. They wanted Indian teachers to come to Malawi and train their teachers. They wanted Indian assistance to strengthen their SME sector. And again, he spoke very strongly about India's case for a permanent seat on the expanded UN Security Council. In a meeting with the Foreign Minister of Cameroon, in addition to India's developmental assistance, there was also a detailed discussion on how militancy has affected countries such as Nigeria and countries in the neighborhood, including Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and Benin. Yes. And they wanted India to help them in capacity building in the defense sector so that the combined forces that are right now combating Boko Haram can be strengthened. We've agreed to look positively at the request. In addition to capacity building, the other priority areas which Cameroon mentioned were education, health, agriculture, and infrastructure development. They also wanted Indian assistance in the IT sector and Indian private investments in sectors such as roads and highways, port development, water, and energy conservation. We have promised them that we would do our best to assist them in various areas of priority that they have identified. The next meeting was with the Foreign Minister of Cape Verde, which is a small island economy, but who have established a reputation of good governance, accountable government, and have moved on to a middle income level country. We discussed the possibility of India giving them assistance for reconstruction of one of the islands which was severely hit by a volcanic eruption last year. They also wanted Indian assistance for various sectors, including the social sector. We have asked them to give us details of specific proposals and projects that they have in mind, and then we'll consider them. The next meeting was with the Foreign Minister of Democratic Republic of Congo. The Foreign Minister of Congo had visited India in May, and that had provided us an opportunity to review the entire gamut of our relationship. So we looked at things which have happened after May. There were certain timelines which were fixed in the meeting in May, and both sides agreed that progress has been as per agreed timelines. We'll continue to strengthen our cooperation with DR Congo in various areas. Her last meeting was with the Foreign Minister of Ghana. There had been a personal tragedy in her family. Her mother had passed away. So EM conveyed her own and Government of India's condolences. We discussed the various facets of our relationship, which has historically been strong. There is a very substantive economic component to the relationship, which has been growing. The bilateral trade has almost doubled in the last 4 years. It now amounts to about $2 billion. There's a large Indian diaspora. We also discussed various projects that have been funded by developmental assistance from India. And again, Ghana is a priority country, and we would continue to look at ways and means to strengthen our relationship with Ghana. So these were the countries from West Africa and East and Southern Africa with whom the bilaterals were conducted today.
There were two other meetings that EM had with the foreign ministers of Tunisia and with South Sudan. I'll just give you a brief readout on those two meetings. The meeting with South Sudan took place in a very warm and cordial atmosphere. The South Sudan foreign minister said that our relationship goes back to before the independence of South Sudan. He was very grateful for the ITEC slots that India has provided to South Sudan and which have proved to be extremely useful. He put forward a request for Indian assistance in building a hospital in Juba. There was also great appreciation for India's assistance in capacity building, in ICT. He mentioned that more than 50 South Sudanese nationals come to India every month for treatment in Indian medical facilities. There are 3,000 students from South Sudan who are currently studying in India. There was a discussion on ONGC Videsh's investments in oil fields in South Sudan, where EA mentioned that because of the security situation in that particular province, the work had stopped, and she requested if work could resume at an early date because ONGC Videsh is very keen so that its workers go back and that oil production starts from there. This is in a place called Tharjat. The South Sudan foreign minister mentioned that their greatest strength is agriculture, that they have, the population is only 12 million people, but they have huge fertile lands. And he said that if India could provide them assistance in the agricultural area, then this could really boost agricultural production and grain output in South Sudan. I already mentioned to you, there was also a discussion on possible Indian assistance in developing the hydropower resources of South Sudan. Thereafter, there was a discussion on the political situation in South Sudan. As you know, there has been violence in South Sudan. because of the problems between the two major communities there and the problems between President Salva Kiir and his former Vice President Riek Machar. The South Sudanese Foreign Minister briefed EAM on the peace agreement which has been brokered in partnership with the IGAD, the Intergovernmental Authority for Development, and he expressed the hope that this time the peace agreement would be durable and would help in sort of bringing things back to track. He also said that when EA mentioned the issues facing ONGC Videsh, he said that the petroleum minister is already in Delhi and he has already held meetings with officials in our Ministry of Petroleum as well as with ONGC, and both sides are very happy with what they have discussed. There was also a discussion on the possibility of Indian assistance in livestock, because South Sudan, he says, has 14 million heads of cattle, which is the biggest in Africa. And he said India has considerable experience in livestock, and if India could share that experience also. 3 MOUs have been proposed between the two sides. One on Foreign Office consultations, which I think is ripe for signature, and also on culture and on the developmental partnership. So that was the meeting with South Sudan. With Tunisia also, there was a very good and warm meeting. The Foreign Minister of Tunisia said that India's relationship with Tunisia has always been extremely close. EAM condemned the recent terrorist incidents in Tunisia and emphasized the need for concerted global action against terrorist entities. There was also a discussion on the phosphate plant that India has been running in Tunisia. 70% is owned by the Tunisian government and 30% by 2 Indian entities. And the Tunisian foreign minister said that perhaps India could consider setting up another plant, to take forward cooperation in this area. And then there was a discussion on the situation in Libya. As you know, we still have 3 Indian hostages in Libya. And the Tunisian foreign minister said that, his country is always ready to assist India in whatever assistance they could provide in locating those hostages, they would certainly do so. The Tunisian foreign minister also invited the external affairs minister to visit Tunisia in the first half of 2016 to co-chair the joint commission meeting, which is now due between India and Tunisia. Foreign Office consultations have resumed after a gap, and they have proved to be a very good basis for expanding cooperation in the future. So these were the 2 other bilateral meetings that External Affairs Minister had. So as you can see, you get a very good flavor of the kind of discussions we have had really from all parts of Africa, Southern Africa, Northern Africa, Eastern Africa, Western, Central. EM really had a full spectrum view of our partnership with Africa, how it is developing. And I think the foreign ministers meeting itself has now set the stage for the heads to meet. Some of the heads have already started arriving. The first to arrive, as you know, was the King of Morocco. And after that, some other heads have also arrived. And 29th, we expect all of them to be here in the meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So with that, I'll stop here. If you have any questions now, Sridhar. Mike.
Sir,
Yeah, it's working.
Sir, you mentioned that Cameroon has sought assistance in capacity building in the defense sector for the fight against Boko Haram. Could we have some specifics on this, sir? What exactly are they looking for and from India, and what is the time span?
I think these were preliminary discussions, and specific programs would need to be worked out. But they would be basically in the nature of some specialized training programs. This could be information sharing. So these, the areas would be identified when experts from both sides sit down and look at the specific needs that Cameroon has. We already have an ongoing cooperation in the capacity building in the defense sector with Nigeria. And right now, the Nigerian forces have been joined by forces from Chad, Cameroon, Niger, and Benin. So it's a regional force which is taking on Boko Haram. So we already have a fairly good idea of, the requirements that Nigeria has projected to us. So I think in that kind of a regional setup, we could look at, needs of other countries like Cameroon, and then see how we could, kind of have a capacity building program for the specific countries so that it gels into the regional effort.
Right. So basically, does it mean that we will be sending officers there for the training, or what is the?
These could
are
be
they
training
looking?
programs here. We have institutions which cover specific areas. Like counterinsurgency, counter-terror. So these could be, some specific batches coming from there for being trained here. These could be customized programs, or this could also be some trainers going from here. So this would depend upon a mutually, kind of worked out program.
Yeah. Ranjit. Piche.
You also said that the South African foreign minister specifically raised the issue of defense cooperation for India. And did she raise the issue of Denel firm, which was recently under ban?
She spoke of defense cooperation not specifically in the India-South Africa bilateral context. She was referring to Make in India program. And while referring to how Make in India program could be, so beneficial not only to India but to its partners in Africa. So there she referred to how suitable Indian technologies were for the defense requirements of countries in Africa. So that reference came in the context of Make in India.
Yeah. Suhasini.
So before the conference, we'd heard from both South African diplomats as well as, I think, the Kenyan foreign minister who had spoken about their concerns over the Indian provision of antiretroviral drugs in particular, but pharma in general. The idea that these supplies could become much more expensive if India aligns itself with the US on intellectual property rights and patents. Did that come up in the conversation?
No.
Yeah.
I actually want to take your attention to a very critical issue which African nationals are facing in India, that is racism. So don't you think it is distorting the image of our country?
No, look, first of all, I don't think that this is such a rampant issue that, it's affecting everybody. Yes, a few isolated incidents have happened and we condemn them unreservedly. In fact, the African ambassadors have met Minister of State V.K. Singh also twice on this issue. And we have said that, any issue that is brought to any such incident that is brought to our attention, we'll immediately and proactively ensure that it is investigated fully and the culprits are brought to book. We also advised, in fact, the African ambassadors that they could consider visiting those places in India where a majority of African students are studying. Because, it's really an issue of awareness that sometimes these things happen because there's lack of awareness. So we said that if African ambassadors wish to visit these places, we'll facilitate it. And we are with them, in ensuring that India remains a totally open place, a free place for African students, because this really is the single biggest contribution that India is making to African human resource development. Today also, there were a couple of ministers that met the External Affairs Minister who recalled their own. I think the Malawi minister said that he was in India from 1963 to 1968, studying in Delhi University, political science. So, this is the very strong and very vibrant link that binds India and Africa together. The fact that many of their senior leadership have studied in Indian institutions, and also that many Indian teachers have trained generations of Africans in Africa. For instance, I know from my experience in Ethiopia that, you meet any Ethiopian today and he would say he was taught maths and science by Indian teachers. So that, I think, is a very important link between our two countries, between the African continent and India. And that is something that we want to preserve, we want to nurture, and we want to build upon. Yeah.
मिस्टर कोहली, मेरे दो सवाल हैं आपसे. पहला, आपने इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट की बात की है और उसमें जितनी कंपनियों से, जो यहाँ की कंपनियां हैं बड़ी, जब से शाहपुर पॉलन जी है, एल&टी है, जिनसे हमने बात की अभी, तो उनका कहना है कि इंडियन गवर्नमेंट वहाँ जब प्रोजेक्ट्स हम लेने जाते हैं तो उसको लेकर उतनी हेल्पफुल नहीं है जितनी दूसरे देशों की कंपनियां उनकी कंपनीज को हेल्प करती हैं. पर्टिकुलरली एक्सिम बैंक का जो इंटरेस्ट रेट को लेकर वो बार बार आपके यहाँ बात कर रहे हैं. और दूसरा सवाल मेरा है हॉस्पिटल और खासकर वो कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग की जब आप बात करते हैं, तो जो यहाँ पर बड़े प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल चेन्स हैं, जब उनसे हमने आज बात की तो उन्होंने कहा कि वो बहुत ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट नहीं ले रहे हैं, खासकर इन्वेस्टमेंट को लेकर. वो ट्रेनिंग में ज्यादा इंटरेस्टेड हैं और वो इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं करना चाहते, तो फिर कौन करेगा? ये हॉस्पिटल्स आपका हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री करेगी, गवर्नमेंट कैसे करेगी? क्योंकि प्राइवेट ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस पैसा नहीं लगाने को तैयार हैं किसी भी अफ्रीकन कंट्री में।
मैं मनप्रीत वोरा जी से अनुरोध करूंगा कि वो इनका जवाब दें।
जो आपने पहला प्रश्न उठाया उसके बारे में तो मैं दूसरा प्रश्न आपसे पूछूंगा कि अगर अफ्रीका में हम ऑलरेडी $9 बिलियन की LOCs एक्सटेंड कर चुके हैं, कोई $6.5 बिलियन के प्रोजेक्ट्स ऑलरेडी चल रहे हैं, तो क्लियरली हमारी LOCs की जो टर्म्स हैं उनके हित में होंगी, इसीलिए वो एक्सेप्ट कर रहे हैं हमारा लाइन ऑफ क्रेडिट। तो ये तो बिल्कुल बात वाजह नहीं है कि हम गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया मदद नहीं करती है, हम तो एक्सटेंड करते हैं। ये सॉफ्ट लोन्स हैं एग्जिम बैंक के थ्रू हम जो करते हैं। उसके बाद जो प्रोजेक्ट एग्जीक्यूशन होता है वो तो जो टेंडरिंग प्रोसेस वगैरह होता है वो तो उन गवर्नमेंट्स ने करना है, और इंडियन कंपनीज जो सिलेक्ट होती हैं उस टेंडर प्रोसेस से उन्होंने आगे उसको एग्जीक्यूट करना है। तो बहुत सारे प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं जो कंप्लीट हो चुके हैं, बड़े अच्छे चल रहे हैं। कुछ प्रोजेक्ट्स ऐसे भी हैं जो कि डिले हुए हैं या आस्ते चल रहे हैं, कई वजह हैं उनकी, कई सारे रीजंस हैं। तो जहां पर भी कोई दिक्कतें आती हैं जो कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया स्टेप इन करके मदद कर सके, कुछ आयरन आउट कर सके, तो हम जरूर करते हैं। आज की डिस्कशंस में भी कुछ कंट्रीज की फॉरेन मिनिस्टर्स ने हमारे EM से पूछा कि भाई अगर आप थोड़ा रिलैक्स कर सकें, कंसेशन और दे सकें, क्योंकि अब उनका जो है डेट रेशियो बढ़ चुका है या कोई IMF कंडीशनैलिटी आ चुकी है। तो हमने EM ने फौरन कहा कि बिल्कुल हम आपकी मदद करेंगे, और पॉजिटिवली रिस्पॉन्ड किया हमने हर उस रिक्वेस्ट पे।
What about the second one, the hospital?
I'll argue. देखिए, अगर हम प्राइवेट सेक्टर इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं इन द हेल्थ सेक्टर, तो एक इन्वेस्टमेंट का साइकिल होता है। मेडिकल टूरिज्म भी उसी एक स्ट्रेटेजी का हिस्सा है। तो मेडिकल टूरिज्म तो ग्रो कर रहा है वहां से, और जब एक क्रिटिकल मास आ जाता है ऑफ पेशेंट्स ऑफ पर्टिकुलर कंट्री, बड़ी कंट्रीज है, नाइजीरिया में इन्वेस्टमेंट है हेल्थ सेक्टर में, इंडियन हॉस्पिटल्स ने इन्वेस्ट किया, वहां पे उन्होंने हॉस्पिटल्स और क्लिनिक सेटअप किए हैं। इनफैक्ट बड़ी कंट्रीज को अगर आप छोड़ भी दें, अभी 2 प्राइवेट सेक्टर हॉस्पिटल सेटअप हो रहे हैं, एक गिनी कोनाक्री में, गिनी कोनाक्री में एक हॉस्पिटल सेटअप हो रहा है थ्रू इंडियन इन्वेस्टमेंट। एक हॉस्पिटल किंशासा में अभी स्टार्ट हुआ है अंडर द पब्लिक प्राइवेट पार्टनरशिप मॉडल, जहां पे एक एग्जिस्टिंग हॉस्पिटल था, गवर्नमेंट हॉस्पिटल, लेकिन उसका ऑपरेशन एक इंडियन प्राइवेट ग्रुप को हैंड ओवर किया गया। तो डॉक्टर्स वो लेके जाएंगे, मैनेज वो करेंगे। सो प्राइवेट सेक्टर का अपना एक स्ट्रैटेजी है, अपना एक इन्वेस्टमेंट साइकिल है। और लेकिन ये मेडिकल हेल्थ सेक्टर एक ऐसा सेक्टर है जिसमें मेडिकल टूरिज्म भी बढ़ रहा है और हमारी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स भी बढ़ रही हैं। एंड दिस इज अ सेक्टर आई थिंक विच इज रियली गोइंग टू ग्रो इन द नियर फ्यूचर।
I have 2 questions. One, will India be aligning itself with Africa's Development Agenda 2063 program, and in what sectors? Secondly, 11 Indians have been arrested in Nigeria and have been there for more than 16 months. Will this be a topic that will be raised when President Buhari is here on Thursday?
I think talking about the 2063 agenda, the documents that have been prepared have been very closely aligned with the priority areas which Africa has set for itself. Both our political declaration and our framework cooperation document really goes into details into those very specific areas. Because, our model of partnership has always responded to the priorities which Africa has. So it is but natural that this summit document would also respond to the areas that Africa has set for itself. Now, regarding the case of Indian nationals who have been detained in Nigeria, this is a case which is sub judice. We are extending all possible assistance. We are trying to see that the hearing of the case is concluded at the earliest possible. We have been raising it with the African leadership at different levels and will continue to raise it. But since it's a sub judice matter, our prime interest is to see that the hearings are held on regular basis and can be concluded at the earliest possible.
Naz.
It has been raised at various levels, so we'll continue to raise it.
Did any of these countries seek Indian help in combating terrorism?
We spoke about the discussions on Boko Haram activities in Nigeria and neighboring region. And, we've always maintained that terrorism has to be fought on at a global level through concerted action between countries. So in that context, I already mentioned about some of the program which we have ongoing training program with Nigeria, which we would be happy to extend to other countries who are part of, that zone which is affected by Boko Haram. And we would develop it further.
Vinita.
Because was there something on the Dal diplomacy given the
About?
the Dal diplomacy given the food pricing shortage and food prices going up? Was any discussion on collaborating and getting pulses from?
No, there was no discussion. As I said, the discussion was on broader developmental themes, and there, as Sanjeev mentioned, agriculture came up recurringly, where many African countries said that they had huge tracts of land, and Indian technology, Indian tractors, Indian expertise, the fact that India with 1.25 billion people has achieved food sufficiency and in fact is exporting food grains was noted with a great deal of appreciation and admiration in fact. And they said if Africa could also replicate that green revolution in India to improve their own agricultural productivity. Anything you want to add?
I would say agriculture is a priority area of cooperation, and at the level of foreign ministers you really don't go into the details which would happen at the level of experts. And, we have certain requirements which probably Africa can fulfill. So it's a kind of a program which would be mutually worked out between the experts.
Hello, check. Hi, good evening, sir. Tuesh here from Bloomberg. Hi, good evening, sir. Tuesh Mishra here from Bloomberg TV. Sir, one question.
From which TV?
Sir, Bloomberg TV India. We are a business news channel. Sir, one question regarding Zimbabwe in particular. We got to know that the minister had asked for an extended credit line. Was this also mentioned during your discussions? And also, can we get a figure, even though it's a bit early to ask for a figure of investments that we can expect in Zimbabwe in particular, because the minister had gone ahead and said that their country is rich in mineral resources and they would want Indian companies to come ahead and invest over there.
I'll get Mr. Manpreet Vora to respond to that. He has all the investment figures.
I'm not sure if I got your second question, but your first question, Zimbabwe and lines of credit. Yes, we do have lines of credit projects in Zimbabwe. Several of them have been completed. Some are ongoing. Some are about to be approved. So there was a roundup of that between the two foreign ministers, and we've assured all possible help. There were some suggestions about additional projects and additional help, and we said that we are favorably inclined to considering whatever proposals come from Zimbabwe. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your second question.
Sectors, which sectors?
Sectors in particular, because there was mining and renewable energy that were mentioned explicitly by the minister.
By the Minister of Zimbabwe?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he mentioned mining for precious stones as one of the fields that they wanted to develop and sought Indian assistance or Indian participation, Indian investment. He did mention the mining sector, particularly with reference to mining of precious stones.
Yeah.
Sir, Siddhant from Doordarshan News. Sir, on climate change, what was the collective view of the African countries and India?
Yeah. This is one of the subjects which will come up in the political document actually, which as we speak is still being negotiated, so it will not be appropriate for me to sort of prejudge the outcome of those negotiations. But my overall sense is that India and Africa are on the same page. We all believe strongly in the principle of common and differentiated responsibilities, and the fact that we must have a balanced, equitable outcome in Paris. So I don't expect any big divergence between India and Africa on the issue of climate change. We all stand solidly with each other on this particular issue and on the issue of climate justice. Okay, if there are no other questions, then I'll just make a couple of announcements. One may be of interest to you all. This is regarding Geeta. Geeta has gone now to Indore. She left by flight today to Indore. In a special gesture, the Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment, Mr. Thawar Chand Gehlot, personally escorted her to Indore. As you know, he is the minister who is responsible for rehabilitation. We have already told you the institute in Indore, which specifically works for deaf and mute girls and their rehabilitation, getting them into a vocational field, giving them enough skills to earn a livelihood on their own. So we are hoping that Geeta will be very well looked after in Indore at that particular institution. Those of you who were at the press conference met Mrs. Monica Punjabi Verma, who works there. This is an institute started by her own parents. Her own mother is deaf and mute, and we believe that this is in the best interest of Geeta. So this is the announcement I wanted. सर नहीं, अच्छा हुआ आप लोग ने ये पूछ लिया. हम लोग की अभी बातचीत बिल्किस सीधी जी से खुद हुई है और उन्होंने कहा है कि शी हैज ग्रेटफुली एक्सेप्टेड दैट डोनेशन.
बट सर कराची में प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस करके कहा गया है कि
नहीं, हमारे पास तो यहाँ बिल्किस सीधी जी आई हुई हैं और प्रधानमंत्री ने उनके सामने ही ये प्रस्ताव रखा था, उनको ही ये ऑफर दिया था और हमारी तो उनसे ही डायरेक्ट बात हुई है. तो मैं तो उसी के बेसिस पे रिपोर्ट कर सकता हूँ. उन्होंने साफ कहा है कि हमने ग्रेटफुली प्रधानमंत्री जी का जो ऑफर है, जो 1 करोड़ रुपए का डोनेशन है, उसको एक्सेप्ट किया है. हम लोग ने अभी उनसे रिसेंटली ही बात की है. जी हाँ. अजमेर का आई डोंट नो वेदर दे आर गोइंग टू अजमेर और नॉट. शायद आगरा जाने की उन लोग की बात है. दे हैव रिटर्न बैक टू पाकिस्तान. ये कहां से आ रहा है आपके पास? Okay, now I'll brief you on the program of Prime Minister for tomorrow. So tomorrow from 9 a.m. onwards, Prime Minister is going to have a series of bilateral meetings with the heads who have arrived. He would be meeting the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Majesty the King of Swaziland, the President of the Republic of Benin, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the President of the Republic of Kenya, the President of the Republic of Uganda, the Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Lesotho, the President of the Republic of Equatorial Guinea, the President of the Republic of Djibouti, the President of the Republic of South Sudan, the President of the Republic of Niger, the President of the Republic of Chad, the President of the Republic of South Africa, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Mozambique, the Prime Minister of the Democratic Republic of Sao Tome and Principe, the President of the Republic of Gabon, the Chairperson of the AU Commission, as you know, Her Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, the President of the Republic of Guinea, and the Vice President of the Republic of Botswana. So this itself tells you the number of bilateral meetings that Prime Minister is going to have. And as I told you, Prime Minister will have bilateral meetings on the 28th, on the 29th, and also on the 30th. Egypt is definitely coming. The President of Egypt is coming, but obviously he is not coming in time to have the meeting on the 28th. So probably his meeting will be on the 29th or on the 30th. No, I do not have that figure. Akbar has that figure. As I said, I do not have that. Well, I have not added, but 1, 2, 3.
Sir.
Correct, 20 leaders. He is meeting 20 leaders just tomorrow.
So, sir, one clarification. Is the figure 9 billion or 7.4 billion? The line of credit.
7.4 billion is what has been approved, out of which I believe 3.5 has been disbursed. Mantri?
No.
What is the 9 billion? Because today we're hearing 9 billion. Sushma Swaraj also said 9 billion. When you said 9 billion.
No.
So we were hearing 7.4 billion till yesterday.
No, it depends which all you include in that. There are proposals and projects at various stages of approvals. After a project is approved by us, there is a second stage wherein the line of credit agreement has to be formally signed between the recipient government and Exim Bank. So if you include all the projects that we have approved, the lines of credit that we have approved, that is close to $9 billion already. And the number of projects that are ongoing under those are $6.5 billion.
Okay, last question.
हेलो सर, लास्ट क्वेश्चन यही है कि छोटा राजन को जो पासपोर्ट इशू हुआ ऑस्ट्रेलिया में दूसरे नाम से,
नहीं,
वो
देखिए
कैसे संभव
ये
हुआ?
प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस छोटा राजन के लिए नहीं है, और वैसे भी वो विदेश मंत्रालय का इशू नहीं है, वो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स का इशू है. विद दैट द प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस कम्स टू अ क्लोज. थैंक यू ऑल.